Hey guys, I'm just going to show you the install of these plates that you've bought or are potentially thinking about buying. I do want to point out that I'm not a fabricator. If it breaks off, it's your fault, right? Please. I can't afford to be like sued or anything. So you guys are in cahoots with me in making these things. We're going to pull my nose apart and see how it fits, and we'll also see how my one's been performing. A couple of little concerns that people have raised, so we'll have a look at those when we go in there. But what you're going to get is two of these laser cut pieces. They're countersunk on one side. A rod that is threaded in the middle, and a couple of various nuts. So let's pull this nose apart. Okay, pretty much all of the bolts on this thing are the T30, the screws, sorry. So the first thing we're going to take off is our screen. You guys have probably found the same, but see our screen gets some little star cracks around there. I guess that's just wear and tear. Or a cheap screen, I don't know. The next thing to take apart is your the screen adjustable bit. This thing sort of needs a pair of pliers to stop that piece spinning. So that is just a nylock nut and the bolt. As soon as you pull that apart, the whole thing just slides out of the top, pretty easy. Then you want to loosen, you want to take off the bits where the indicators are stuck on. No, I lie. To get these bits off, you need to take your the tank cover off. Okay, so to remove the guards that we need to remove, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Same on the opposite side is 8. One screw here is 9. If I turn the bars, you'll see the screw in here. That's 10. The one on this side, just in here, is 11. And then we've got the ones under the nose, which is right in this corner here, 12. And then our side panels will slide off. Let me put them somewhere safe. And then we've got this bolt here. Okay, now we can take the tank cover off. Unclick your little bugger. Okay, so the tank cover comes off. And then these indicator covers come off, and you can unplug them. There is a plug. I don't remember jamming my wire back through there, but now it's caught, so I will undo that one shortly. Put these aside. Now we want to take the headlight out. So the headlight just has 4 screws, one sort of straight through here and one in this large hole here. Just grab them out with a pair of pliers or whatever you can. Now your headlight is going to come out and it will be plugged in. So you can undo this one big plug here. And your headlight's off. And now next time you go to the dealer, he's going to say, how come you unplugged the headlight? Because the computer keeps a record. Let me put this somewhere safe. Don't drop this, it's expensive. Okay, so here is the inside of the nose. Obviously I've got this steel bracket in here which you won't have. So I will undo my 2 bolts down there without telling you. And then what you're going to want to do is unplug the instrument cluster, and then we're going to take off the instrument cluster by undoing these What have we got? 3 screws, I think. 1, 2, 3. That's right. Then the instrument cluster will just pull off those 3 little plastic spigots. Okay, there's a couple more plastic bits we can move out of the way. So there's a plastic screw. When you do these back up, make sure you don't over tighten them. They will strip the plastic like really easy. Do I need? No, yeah, probably. So there's 3 screws for this little plastic panel. And that sort of covers our little bird scoop. So do that for each side. And then we want to disconnect our main sort of plastic half. This is like an egg, you know, there's 2 halves. But it's still covered by this bit of plastic, so we want to take this one off. So I don't think this one needs to come off, it just needs to be sort of stretch enough to get out of our way. Bugger, I sort of thought that I didn't need to do that, but we do because there's some screws behind here that we have to get to. So I'll take this bit off. Yeah, so there's 4 screws here that you need to undo. You probably won't have driving lights there, but there's, you can see 1, 2. So those 2 hold this bottom panel on. So that drops down. Now this panel moves out of the way. Yeah, so hang on, I'll just bring you over. So now, yeah, just pull these. So this and this is tied together. So once you've unscrewed that base, that sort of pan or whatever it is, let that drop down. And then this one, you can just pull it off enough that it's not clipped over this box. You can see where it normally sits, right up to here, where the dirt is. So yeah, you pull that back, and then we've got the difficult part. We need to undo. That screw doesn't exist yet, okay, ignore that one. We've got 1, 2, and we've got them on both sides. These are, of course, the problem screws that we're trying to make a bit of a fix for. Okay, so you've got those four bolts out. You need to take a screw out of this top part. I've re-drilled that and I've got this whole assembly here that I just took out that's, you know, made for my phone mount. You may, in order to get a screwdriver or something, you may want to unscrew one of these and just rotate this back like this, if you can see it. I had to do that to get the bolt out. But so you've taken those front ones out, you've taken one out of here, and then there is. Okay, so there's one more on this side, and basically it screws these together. This side has got a plastic thread, and this side has a screw. So you need to get into. How are we going to see this? There you go, you can see it. Ta-da! I'll put an arrow on the screen so you know what I'm talking about. So yes, you just need to get in there. I think it's another T30. Actually, it's the little one, T20. So yeah, you can get it by just, you know, pulling down on the front and on this little this piece on this side, pushing that up, and you can get a screwdriver in there. If you can't, or you're not comfortable with getting the screwdriver in there, or the bit driver in there, then the next thing is you have to take off this whole plastic piece from this side, which might mean you need to take the tank off. So try not to do that if you don't have to. Okay, the next thing is this nose is going to come off. Just like, it feels like it actually wants to go in an upwards direction. Pull your little wires into the middle there. like that. Now there is a screw. Oh, okay, that's the screw from the the little screw that I just pulled out, but I couldn't get to drop out of the hole. But now it's dropped out of the hole. So there is wires coming in through here. You can see them on the camera, I think. So they're still going to hold this whole plastic piece in position. Okay, so I've just put the camera light on. So yeah, we have these 4 spigots. You can see how that is welded on there. And you know, these I've obviously rubbed the paint off, but yeah, so you've got these 4 spigots, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, and the idea, of course, of this bracket is that it grabs hold of these, and that's a lever arm, and it makes quite a strong connection. So what has been raised is that, hey, if you load these too much, focus. If you load these too much, you will break them off because it's, I don't know, I guess because it gets fairly thin there. Anyway, mine's been on there for some 10,000 kilometers, so 6,000 miles over some pretty rough terrain. I have got driving lights and phone mounted on there, and you know, certainly I don't see any cracks or anything like that. But disclaimer. Yeah, the flash is not on. Hang on. Let's get the flash going. So disclaimer. I'm not guaranteeing. I don't know what the weld quality is like. Yeah, you can see where these brackets of mine have rubbed the paint off. I can feel that it has rubbed the paint off. I don't think it's really rubbed a notch into that steel or anything. I feel the paint thickness, but I don't think there's a significant dent there or anything. So yeah, that is really, I guess, the main concern. What is the quality of these welds and how much load can you put on those? But seriously, I think they're pretty tough. Take at your own risk. Okay, there is one more screw. I slid this off without even taking the 2 halves apart. So there's one more screw, which is also on the right hand side of the bike. You can see it in there. So we'll just take that one out. Okay, so now your 2 halves are going to come apart. One half is still connected by all the wiring, and this one comes apart. Now what you're going to want to do is we need to, this last screw, we need to put a hole in our plastics, which you saw earlier, which I said please ignore. So the easiest way is to line up the 2 spigot holes. You could even put something through there if you like. I'm just going to line that up by eye, and sure enough, can you see that? So what you want to do, line up these 2 spigot holes and then put a mark there and drill a hole through your plastic fairing. You'll see that this is actually touching this pin up here. So hopefully that makes sense. You're going to drill this hole. 7mm. Yeah, drill a 7mm hole or a 6.5mm hole, something like that. 7mm is what's been cut in the aluminium, so you can probably drill a 6.5mm hole through the plastic, and that's going to come through on this side. Make sure you've got this up the right way. So your 2 spigot holes, this is against the plastic pin there. Hole's going to be drilled down here. If you put it in upside down, what's going to happen? Yeah, you could still do that. You could drill a hole there. That will be wrong. You'll have a wasted hole. So make sure you do that. You can see the light through there. All good. You got that one clear. That is the most difficult step, I believe. Okay, so what we're going to do now is install these plates. Make sure the countersunk side is facing to the outside. So we can put it over. You can see these, we know the spigots, we've already had a look at them. So our two holes go over these spigots, and that is a really tight fit, which is good. So that one's on there. Then we're going to get our pin and one of the countersunk screws through here, and what we do want to do is put some Loctite, blue Loctite or red Loctite, whichever you prefer, in here, because you don't want this to ever come loose. You don't want this screw to drop out. So I've got some blue Loctite here, which I think, oh, it's not nearly empty. I thought it was nearly empty. And you're going to do that one up pretty tight. I don't know how many Newton meters, just maybe don't crank it from the bottom of the Allen key. I'd say, you know, just grab a bit of a lever like this and as tight as you can. Okay, now we've got the one from the other side. Remember, the countersunk hole is going to go on the outside. This one fits over the spigots on this side. Once again, oh, that is really tight on those spigots. However, we want it pretty tight. I think a laser cut hole is seems to be pretty effective. Okay, some Loctite on here. Now these don't have to be, I've countersunk them like, you know, so that they're reasonably flush, but they don't have to be perfect. If you get it and it's the bolt head's still poking out by a millimeter or so, don't worry, it doesn't get in the way of anything. So that is now bloody rock solid. Okay, one little mistake that I've just made here. I've realized these some of your wires, especially this wiring harness, can't go below, they need to go in between the two spigots. So I just have to take this one off again, if I can get it off. Yeah. Okay, get your wiring that needs to go through there. I think that one goes on the outside, that's fine. Yes, okay, so that one is now good. Now we can put the other half on, making sure that this wiring harness is above that wire, through there. These ones are on the outside, that one's on the outside. Okay. Nice tight fit. I'm actually really happy with that. Okay, now we can do this one up. Okay, now to put our plastics back on. Now just remember that we've got these little rebates here that have to sit over those spigots. So this one's going to go on. Jeez, kick the camera. It's not so good. Okay, now I'm going to put these poor lighting. I'm going to put these screws in for this plastic half first. Okay, now that we've got this half of the nose on with those 2 screws at the back. Okay, so grab this nut and washer out of your kit. Take the nut off, take one washer off, and put this through the hole that you drilled in the side of your plastic, which you drilled in exactly the right spot. Okay, should come through just like that. Put the washer on. Now, again, put some Loctite on there. Okay, put an Allen key in the outside. I think it's 5mm, and a 10mm spanner, and do that one up. Okay, and now we'll put the other half on. So same deal. We've already got our wires in the right spot. We're just going to move this back into position. Just show you at the top there. There's a pin. There's a pin there. Make sure that your 2 halves of your screen go together. 2 halves of your nose. Actually, before you put your two halves together properly, make sure you put this rubber gasket back in the instrument cluster there. In fact, definitely easier when one side is not in, right? Okay, now we want to put this side of the nose on. So yeah, we just want to get this rubber gasket, the side of our nose, to slide onto that rubber gasket. I want to start those 2 screws. And now you want to put those plastic screws back in. Just make sure your rubber seal is in place. As you do this one up, you'll see that tighten. Don't over tighten it, or you will strip that screw. You can put your top screw in. For me, I've got as I said, I've got this entire bolt because of my phone mount. Oh, it's a long thread. Now you want to grab that last piece of your from your kit. Take one washer off and the nut, and put that in through that hole that you drilled in exactly the right place. There we go. Look at that, it works. Put the washer on. Put some Loctite on there. Okay, now before you get too carried away, make sure all of your headlight wiring is up in this cavity, because once you do up this last screw, you may have problems. Indicator, another indicator. Okay, so what you have now, you should have now, actually let's put that bottom screw in. There you go, you can see that. Can this come? Yeah. See that screw there? I didn't break anything. Okay. Now you have a really strong nose. What I do suggest, like this is all a tight fit, but you can put a zip tie just around these two, just pinch them together. Cut that off. Okay, so effectively that is your nose, your strong nose installed. Now we'll just put everything back together. I'll put the instruments back on. I'm actually just going to plug these indicators back in so that I don't lose these wires, because I've zip tied them in there a bit too tight, I think, and they pop back in easily. Okay, now when you're installing your headlight back, you can plug it in. It's just one plug. And then just make sure you've got those wires sort of tucked back, and that you're not going to force any wires onto anything. It should go in, you know, nice and easy. Sit snugly in position. You just want to get those four headlight bolts in. Sometimes it takes a little bit of finessing just to get the headlight into the right position before you can get those screws in. Now the instrument's plugged in, the headlight's plugged in, the indicators are plugged in. So now is a good time just to make sure you have plugged everything in the right spots. We'll turn the ignition on. Headlight works. Dashboard works, although I have to reset my clock now. Indicators. There you go, done. We have a rock solid 1190 or 1090. I don't know about the 1290 with the new dual headlight, because although the plastic setup is the same, I don't know what fits in there. So I think I have one guy going to experiment, take a unit and see if it will fit, but no guarantees. But yeah, 1190 or 1090, it works a treat. Cheers.
Don't talk